All right, going live. And hello, everybody. Sorry for the short notice here, but I got some other stuff planned for today and for tomorrow. And this is something that couldn't wait. So back in November, I did an interview with Ben from Stitchdown. And if you're not familiar with Stitchdown, it's a pretty great website. They talk about a lot of boots and shoes and stuff. And they also have I don't know if they would call it a companion podcast, but they also have a podcast that I've been a fan of. And they invited me to come on and get interviewed. And we're talking about different topics to present. And I really wanted to talk a lot about leather. So in November, I did a podcast with Ben. Let me share that. So you can, if you want to skip ahead here, you can check out that interview on their website here. I put the link to this in the description, but also today I wanted to play some of it in my little player here. I wanted to play some of it and talk about some of the stuff I said. There's actually one thing I need to slightly correct myself on that I spoke about in the interview. But today we're going to talk about that. And everybody that's here, what's up, Marco? And Marco, you're part of the department you work in at Horween. I talk a lot about the splitting department in this podcast. I actually listen to it on Spotify, but you can listen to it on their website, stitchdown.com, or you can find it on like Apple and other places too. But how's everything sounding? Is everything coming through clearly? I just want to make sure things are working before we get too deep here. And good to see you, Marco. Happy Thursday. So, before we get into the podcast, there's a couple special leathers that we made some one-shot card cases on. And I sort of snuck those up Tuesday this week, I think. And those are up on our site right now. I actually have them in front of me here too, so we can look together. But there's a couple smaller pieces of leather that I had in our shop here. These are things that we've collected over time that we don't stock. And every now and then I like to make our least expensive item in them, just so you can experience the leather in person. It looks like people already picked up the reverse dip-dyed amaretto here, which we were just talking about in the shop, how much we love the reverse dip-dyed amaretto. A lot of words in that one. But that's a particularly vibrant piece of shell. It's very, very unique. And then we have these other unique pieces here. I wanted to talk about Cigar Dublin. It's pretty similar to the brown nut Dublin, but darker. Technically, we don't really know what this color is being called by from the tannery, but it's really dark. It looks like cigar shell, so we just started to call it Cigar Dublin. This is a fan favorite, the cobalt blue, which is really a really nice blue shade. It's a darker blue, but you can see like on the spine it gets a little bit lighter and a little bit more aqua. And just Dublin, if you're not familiar with Dublin, is incredible. And Don and Hugh are here. Orksan, where are you from? I don't know. Azerbaijan. Cool, man. Wow, across the world. The other leather that's up here, there's two other ones. This Pearl de Ville, when we bought this leather, it was called Pearl at de Ville, and now I believe it's called Pearl Crypto with a K. I don't know how they come up with their names. What's up, Jason? Good to see you, man. The Pearl de Ville is one of the most interesting gray leathers that I've seen. You can, even just in this photo here, you can really get a good sense of just how naturally appearing this gray is. And that's something that you don't really see in leather, like especially in aniline leather, a leather that's not like heavily finished and painted. It's hard to get a good gray shade. And this is one of the better gray shades in leather that I've seen. That's up. And the other one there's two others. So the football leather, this is actual NFL football that we are making some one shots out of. And a lot of people look at the football, and if you buy an actual football new, you'll notice it will be this color. It's kind of this orangey red. And most people perceive footballs to be straight up brown. And that's because the football equipment managers for each NFL team, they have a guy whose whole job is to prep out footballs, and they put all sorts of stuff on it, and it makes it darker and more brown. But it really starts off this sort of red color. And it's ironic, just in my experience, the leather as it comes from the tannery, it has so much tack that has been tanned into the skin that it should be, and it is naturally tacky. All you really have to do is activate the waxes with like a bristle brush, like a firmer brush, and it brings out those waxes, and it's very, very grippy. I think when they're putting more stuff on it, it actually might make it less grippy, which is kind of ironic that there's like a whole person's job to treat those balls. And the other one that's really neat, this is a leather called Essex in a color called Bold Orange. I really like this shade too. It kind of gives me that same vibe as the dip dye amaretto. But the Essex leather is the same tree bark formulation that they use in the shell Cordovan. They're tanning steer hides with it instead of those dense Cordovan butts. And so you get similar veg character as you do in the shell in a steer hide here. And then Essex is like a sub layer of what the Dublin is. The Essex gets an oil finish and the Dublin gets a wax finish. So the Essex has like a little bit of a softer hand to it, a little bit more of an oily feel. It doesn't tend to have as much of that bursty sort of pull-up effect, where the Dublin has a little bit of a tackier wax feel, and it has a little bit more of a burst as you flex it. So those are the new one-shots that are up. I'm trying to do, this is the first that you'll hear it here, I'm trying to do more private stock stuff tomorrow. We're going to do a launch, and I need to make a video for it today. So stick around with me here because I want to talk about this podcast. And then after that, I want to sort of poll you guys to see if I should do a live stream of tomorrow's private stock event, or if I should do it like a higher quality, like 4K video of the private stock stuff. And I'll get you guys to vote on that. So recapping here, let's go back into this. This is the reason I wanted to meet up with you guys live today. Again, in November, just like a couple weeks before Thanksgiving, I was interviewed by Ben Robinson, who's the creator of Stitchdown, the webpage that you can see open right now. There's all sorts of good resources on their page. So if you're into shoes and leather, it's probably a good place to check out. They also have this thing here called the Shoecast, which I've been a big fan of. I think I've listened to every episode now, and they invited me to come on and participate. So we did an episode here. It's long. It's an hour and 45 minutes long. And I took a couple timestamps here. I wanted to sort of just play this back so you can get a little preview of it. And then I'll comment on some of the stuff I talked about. But if you want to check this out, the link for the podcast is in the description. I listen to it on Spotify. So I'll go search on Spotify for Stitchdown Shoecast. You can also listen to it anywhere that podcasts are. They wanted me to point you to this webpage, and the reason why is because I included this chart along with our interview. This is something that I was just guiding our conversation by, and he decided to include it in a little blog post. So before I get into the preview here, if you take a look at this chart, this is a flow chart diagram of a generalized tanning process at a tannery, and my experience is at Horween leather company. So I sort of directed this chart more specifically towards Horween. So you can see we start with a hide, we chrome tan it or veg tan it, you grade and split the leather. That's for Marco in the chat, the department he works in. And then we go to color and retan. There's sort of a tangent called hot stuffing. We can dry it after that, and at that point the leather is called crust. And then we move into finishing, sorting, and shipping. So here is a preview. I'll just play like a couple minutes here of the podcast. And then I've got a couple other timestamps that I wanted to talk about too, but let me get into it here. If you have questions too, like the reason I wanted to do it in a live setting here was to let you hear it and then have me elaborate on anything that might be confusing. All right, here you go.
We are going to talk about leather and how it's made.
If you can't hear,
get into it far more
deeply
hear the
podcast
than
going right now,
probably I've ever been in a single conversation, and really take it step by step in a way that I think is going to be very, very instructive to everybody. And I'm going to pepper you with questions because I actually don't know everything is like a nice way to kind of put my knowledge of how leather's created. I know how it kind of reacts to becoming a boot or a shoe, and how it ages and what's going to crease and what's not and what's more comfortable, like all these different properties of it. But the creation side, like I've never made leather, and like I don't make leather goods, and there are a lot of things that I want to know that I think that everybody who cares about footwear can really benefit from. So the first question, Phil, is like, how the hell do you know so much about leather, and what have you done in your life to obtain that knowledge?
Yeah.
Like, build your credibility here so people like believe you a little bit.
Yeah. I started working at Horween Leather Company with my childhood buddy, Nick Horween. And essentially I started there as a summer job about 15 years ago now, which is nuts. I'm feeling old.
You look great.
And that summer job, thank you so much. The summer job that was supposed to literally last the summer, a couple months, lasted 14 years, a little over 14 years. And that's sort of where I picked up my knowledge. And, I have to give a lot of credit to Skip Horween, so Nick's dad, because if you ever meet the guy, his passion for leather is just completely infectious. It's a little bit of a shame that he came around before a lot of social media stuff, because the guy just has incredible stories. And when you're around him, he wants you to understand what's happening in his business and what makes him so excited about it. The guy's the fourth generation leather tanner, so he's got quite a bit of experience and knowledge. So most days when I would show up to work, he would spend a couple hours with me, and we would just walk around and talk about the leathers that we were seeing. And he would teach me simple things of how to experience a leather properly in his mind, certain things to look for.
Like what?
Well, so a very simple example is hard to describe over the air here, but if you take a piece of leather that's sitting on a table, he would suggest to grab it and sort of shape it as a clamshell, let's say, and hold it in your hand, and then sort of run your index finger, or run the leather between your index finger and your thumb. And this sort of motion plus the grabbing of the leather gives you a few different senses. Just by running your fingers over the leather on the fold there, gives you a sense of how even the thickness is, and even just how thick it is in general. It also tells you a lot about the feel. Is it smooth, or is it sort of sticky? Does it have any grab to it? A little bit about the texture. And then also the temper. Is it firm or is it soft? So that sort of motion is the way he taught me, was sort of the ultimate first assessment of a lot of key features of leathers. Okay, I'm going to pause it there. I played that clip just to demonstrate Skip's assessment of leather. And what's up, Jim? It's really great to see your name. Thanks for coming to hang out. So that section of the interview, there's a couple of things that are funny. Is like the job I was talking about, how it was supposed to be a summer job. I was literally supposed to type in their formulations for all the tannages at Horween into a computer, and then get the hell out and go back to college. And I took the formulas that they had at the tannery, and like sort of made them a variable formula, so they could make different size batches by just like hitting in whatever pound, like however many pounds of leather they wanted to work with, and it would sort of spit out all the ingredients. So they saw that I did that, and then that summer job just like kept going and going, and it just kept doing more and more stuff, which is funny. But I was talking about how I was taught to appreciate leather from Skip. And here, let me flip the camera over here to give you a little bit better detail. So I don't have an actual piece of leather here that's like not stitched, but I would get something like a little bit larger than this, maybe even like the size of a like a fat Herbie, right? And the way that he taught me how to assess the leather was to sort of just fold it in half and then grab it, number one, and sort of get a sense of the body of it. Is it soft or firm? And then the other thing that he taught me about was if you take your fingers together and just sort of like gently rub it across the spine, or even just grab it, it will give you a lot of different bits of information about what that leather is like. So in this case, this is a M's Chrome Excel tall Herbie that I've been wearing. And it's pretty luxurious feeling. It's very rich feeling. It's got a nice softness to it. And this has a bunch of cards and stuff inside. So it's a little hard to do when it's loaded with stuff. But as a counterpoint, or sort of like a counter example, if I pull out this piece of Cigar Dublin for this private stock one shot, and I grab it like this, I can tell immediately that this has like a little bit more structure to it. It's got a little bit more body and firmness. That's something that we call the temper. And you can see if I just hold it up like this, it wants to stay this shape. If it was softer, it would sort of drape over. So if you're a craftsperson and you want to make bags and you want that bag, say it's an unstructured bag with no liner or something, and you want the bag to sit on the table and have some stand to it, you might want a leather with a little bit of a firmer temper. Or maybe you're making, I see a lot of women's bags that tend to have a little bit more softness and drapiness to them. They sort of like plop down on the table as opposed to stand up. That's something that we call the temper, and you can get a good sense of the temper just by holding it in your hand like this. The other things that we talked about in this podcast were there's a different feel. It's not just the body and firmness or softness, but how does the surface of the leather feel? So when I go like this on the Dublin, it has a slight grip to it. It's not completely silky with no resistance. It's got like a little something. And you can tell just by going very lightly over the surface that this has a little bit of wax on it. Some leathers are a little bit more, like a suede would be a very obvious difference where it would feel sueded. Sometimes in the suede finishing, they'll apply silky waxes and tumble it with that, and it gives you this really sort of sexy, like velvety feel. That's something that you might observe just with like a simple holding it and sort of rubbing your finger across. And the other thing that this does when you grab it between these two fingers and run it down the edge, you can and give it a little bit more pressure doing this. You can get a sense of where the weight is. If it's a very consistent thickness, you won't feel any difference in the leather when you run it across like this. Sometimes in certain areas of hide, or if you do like a bad splitting job, you might notice like a slight bit of waviness when you run your hand across. So these are sort of like the macro view of how I assess the leather, and that's just with my hands. The obvious other ones are like looking at it, and those are things like, is it bright and shiny? Is it dull? What's the grain look like? In the Dublin here, you can see this private stock Cigar Dublin has a good amount of figuring in the grain. If this camera was higher quality, you'd be able to see the little hair holes and just like a sort of natural look to the Dublin. Those are sort of the high level, like easy assessment things that we look at first in looking at the leather. And I see your question here, M.E. Thanks for coming to hang out. You said, "Hey Phil, what's your opinion on Shinky shell? I prefer Horween's overall quality, but Shinky's colors are more interesting." That's I don't necessarily disagree. I like the Shinky stuff. I've seen if you go and look, I put a YouTube video when I compared every piece of shell Cordovan from every tannery. The Shinky stuff's pretty good. It has a little bit more of a natural appearance that I like. It doesn't have the same, or at least some of the colors I've seen don't have the same sort of temper that I was talking about. What I like in the Horween shell is it has this like firmness and softness at the same time. It has a really interesting body to the shell, but it's also malleable in a way that's not too soft. It's hard to describe because it's both things at the same time. But generally speaking, I find the natural appearance of the Horween stuff to be a little bit better. I also find that the feel is a little bit better and the temper is more pleasing to me. And it kind of depends on what you want to make. The Shinky stuff is great. I just think Horween's a little different and I like it more. There's been the reason that the color is different also is that heavy amount of oils that are tanned into the Cordovan that Horween does is different than the way that Shinky will hot stuff their shell Cordovans. If you look at this chart, you can see the, maybe I can even zoom in here. There's a little box here off to the right called hot stuffing. And the hot stuffing that Horween does is very unique. And they put a lot of wax and oil in the leather. And both the Chrome XL and the shell Cordovan, it's about half waxes and oils on both of those Horween products. I don't know precisely what the Shinky formulation is or what their exact measurement would be if you were to take that apart and measure like how much oil content there is. But I imagine it's less, and I'd imagine it'd be different composition. The reason I bring it up is because when you have more wax and oils in a piece of leather, it's hard to overcome those greases with color. So you don't tend to see very bright shades of leathers that are also really oily. They tend to look like the color of those greases. And that would be my suspicion is why you don't see so many bright Horween colors. They've done it. They actually have a whole different product for that they call work shoe butts, where they full finish and pigment the shells, but it's not natural looking. So there's always sort of this balance between how natural something's going to look and how consistent it would look. And in the case of these really oily and waxy leathers, you don't really get bright shades from an oily leather. And hopefully that makes sense. Now, having said that, the Shinky stuff is pretty nice. There's some stuff from Miriam. There's other Cordovan tanners that I think do a serviceable job. I'm very biased, so you have to take my opinion with a grain of salt, but I find the Horween stuff to be better in every way. Some ways like to a lesser extent than others, but I find the appearance, the look, and the feel to be just more pleasing. Like I said, I did a video. Let me pull that up for you. I did a video called Leather Appreciation 101, and let me find the blog post. I did a YouTube video called Leather Appreciation 101. It's one of my favorite videos I did with Amir. I'm going to link that in chat. So in that video, in the second half of the video, the first half I talk about how to appreciate the leather. In the second half, we go through every piece of shell and sort of I give them a blind taste test of each piece of shell, and then we talk about it a little bit. But that's a really good question. I mean, I like the Shinky stuff. I just think Horween's better. Jim says, hey, Phil, have you ever considered a shell Cordovan envelope-style wallet that tucks? Using a Frank the Enforcer footprint with a single tuck closure to secure contents. Could call it prohibition. What's funny is, 11 years ago or whatever now when I first started leatherworking, that my first design was like a little envelope wallet. So like think of a little bit larger than your credit card, and it did exactly what you're describing. One of my friends loved it so much she actually got a tattoo of it on her arm. So I have done that. I don't know why I didn't really pursue that much. I think at the time I felt like MAKR was doing a nice job with a very similar design. I'm actually wearing a prototype right now that I'll show you. So this is, we don't have like a gangster name for this yet. Maybe we'll call it Prohibition, like you said. I really like this guy, and this is the first time I'm showing it on camera. I'm sort of wear testing this. But this is a gusseted card holder. It's made with business cards in mind, but it's also supposed to be able to be used just as like a wallet. To put some cash inside and use some credit cards. Business cards are a slightly different dimension. You can see I've got some business cards in here in the front. Let me just grab one instead of a huge stack of them. So here's my business card. and they're just like a little wider than others. So I think this is going to be the final for this design. You'll notice the front here just has this flap. We did experiment putting bands over the front, and we tried those. We found it to be annoying and cumbersome to get the flap to tuck inside of a strap. And we tried other closures like snaps, and we just found it to be like less fun to use and less easy to use. And I liked this idea of the molding of the leather to hold everything closed. You know, if I want, like, everything's pretty tucked in there, right? Like I can shake this and the cards aren't falling out. There's actually like a lot of cards in here. So we don't have one with a closure strap, but I like this design a lot. It's been working well for me, and I'm hoping to do these next week, just as a extra secret heads up, because I wasn't expecting to talk about that today. Oh, AKS Minster. Good to see your name. Says, what additional processes does Chrome Pack undergo over Chrome Excel? Wow. It's funny because like sometimes I forget how knowledgeable you guys are. So Chrome Pack is it's like a indestructible version, quote unquote version of Chrome Excel. It doesn't have, if I can remember correctly, I don't think there's any veg in it, and I could be mistaken, but it's my recollection that Chrome Pack is a pure. No, it's pretty firm. There might be some veg in there. It's pretty firm. Anyways, the biggest difference between the Chrome Pack and the Chrome Excel is the stuffing blend. So if we look back at this chart again, this little box on the right, it's a process that most people don't do as a separate procedure. They'll impart these waxes and oils in the color and retanning process. The reason that they do it in hot stuffing is you can impregnate the leather with more raw materials like beeswax, for example, something that you'd have to melt and pound into the leather to get it inside. So the Chrome Excel and the Chrome Pack go through the same procedures, but the formulations are quite different. And the formulation for the Chrome Pack has firmer waxes in the hot stuffing department. It's also, the Chrome Pack is paste dried, where the Chrome Excel is hung dried. So you get a flatter grain. The Chrome Pack also does not have a polished grain like the Chrome Excel. They actually take they affect the grain layer on the Chrome Excel and polish it super smooth, where the Chrome Pack is a little bit grainier. And the Chrome Pack is super, super tough. I actually have, I don't think I have them here, but I have a pair of quaddy moccasins that have Chrome Pack as the outsole. So it's certainly softer than like a leather sole that I have right now from Oak Street Bootmakers, or most like footwear that you would have a normal leather sole. The Chrome Pack outsoles are very moccasin-y. They're like much softer, and they're very comfortable. You kind of feel through them onto the ground a little bit more, which is good and bad. They look different, but Chrome Pack is super, super tough. But the processes are pretty similar. Like this chart, like most leathers go through about every one of these steps. So in terms of process and procedure, they're mostly similar, but the stuff that's inside of it that you can't really see is completely different. That's a really good question. Hugh says, I've heard that Shinky uses less oil, fats, and wax to achieve a relatively clean, blemish-free finish. Yeah, I would suspect that that's accurate, especially if these Cordovan, if they want to get a bright color on a piece of Cordovan, you have to put less wax and oil in it. It just gets a little muddy. Jim says, the Horween leathers maintain that smell. Other Cordovan leathers can't produce that feeling or sensation. That is another thing that doesn't translate across the camera here, right? Is you can't really smell over the internet yet, but the smell's a really big deal to me. And the Cordovan certainly has insane smell. if you actually recall that wallet I put a video up of a week ago that was run over 100 times, that wallet was incredible looking. The customer actually tried to save it themselves on by polishing it. I'm not sure what he applied to it, but when it came here, we could smell the finish he put on there. He put like a lot of something on there, which is, I didn't like it as much as like the natural scent. But it still had like, you walk in the room and smell that guy's polish. You know, now that it's not in here, when we walk into the shop, you smell Cordovan here. So it's a pretty pleasant smell. Most of the Cordovan, I was doing that Leather Appreciation 101 video, most of the shells smelled pretty good. The Horween stuff smells, I think it smells better. Again, super biased. There's a South American shell that smells bad. And I don't know why it does, but it just smells awful. Emmy says, thanks, Phil. One more thing. What's that nice leather coat hanging behind now? The color looks amazing. There's two. The orangey one is, that's Miranda's coat. Miranda, actually, she makes her own stuff. I think she modified that jacket herself. The tan jacket to the right of that is one I made maybe like 8 or 9 years ago in a mock horsehide. And that's more like a motorcycle jacket, which I'm not cool enough to wear. I could put it on for you. Probably too fat for it now. It's been a while. It's a little tight. But it's got the horse mane down the back. That's what I like about this one. All right. How about that? In a fashion show. But the other jacket's Miranda's jacket. I don't know much of the story there, but again, I think she modified it to her own taste. Hugh says, so Shinky is drier, cleaner, and more veg tan like in temper. Horween is richer, more rugged, and more pliable. From another leather crafter. Sure. I mean, it's hard to generalize all that. Like veg tan, like in temper. I don't know what that means. I'd imagine it doesn't have the same roundness. Or I know that the Shinky stuff that I have felt does not have the same roundness that I find to be more pleasant in a leather. And maybe that's what he means by veg feel. Like sometimes veg is like, it feels like cardboard because it's super firm. But you can tan veg in different ways. Like you see on the chart here, you're like, that's just one thing out of all this. So there's a little bit more to the story, which is again why I did this podcast. Waveland Avenue. Why wouldn't anybody buy anything else? Horween's the best and it's the original. It's not the original. I think, and Miranda. What did you modify in your jacket? Somebody was noticing it.
Oh, I put an action back in and a gusset for the arms.
Yeah, do you want to show that?
Sure.
Here, show over here.
Yeah. So there's a gusset to expand it, and then for extra reach, there's an action back. This is an added pocket.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's so badass. I want one of those in like black. It'd just be like the Matrix. Okay. Yeah, Miranda's very talented. So Horween is not the original shell Cordovan. I mean, they're right at the moment. I think they're the longest lasting Cordovan tanner. But the Cordovan leather was made in Spain, like hundreds of years ago. I think the reason you don't, the reason that not everybody buys it is they can't make enough of it, and it's expensive. So, I mean, if you got infinite money and time, yeah, you probably buy Horween every time. But, you know, it's just not, like, we're lucky to get any shell. And they just can't make enough of it. Same with Chrome XL. Like, I think the lead times on Chrome XL right now are the longest that they've ever seen. And, you know, I imagine it's a supply chain thing, and then COVID, like, it's hard to run a business right now. So it's just like they can't make it fast enough, and it's expensive. We get some cool spam. How do I mark this? Report. Okay. You guys are getting reported. Some Cyrillic there. Okay. You're reported too. All right. Grayman says, seems chrome tan leathers end up breaking weaker than veg tan. The suppleness of Chrome XL seems to come at the expense of durability. Why are veg tan leathers not used as much in boot production? I actually, again, it's hard to overgeneralize anything, and I will try to generalize for you to answer your question. I don't find chrome tan leathers to be weaker than veg. I find them to be much stronger. The chrome leather, and we talk about it in the podcast, the chrome tan leather is like a cyborg. It's like it's like metal and organic material combined, where the veg tan is organic. It's tree barks and skin fused together. So the chrome tan stuff is much stronger and more durable and heat resistant. The veg tan tends to be weaker, especially in, although the Chrome XL is an incredible slit tear strength and tensile strength. So don't generalize everything, right? But the veg tan tends to be much less strong in terms of the bonds of the fibers. The other question that you're asking that I think is more interesting is the break. And I think this is the reason you do not see many veg leathers on much footwear. If you look at, I would venture to say, anything other than Cordovan, take a look at a boot made out of veg, on a veg, and you'll notice that the break is very coarse and pipey. It doesn't bother me so much, but there tends to be a loose break on veg leathers. I'm not really certain like why that physically happens, but I think a lot of the traditional methods in the finishing for veg tends to like press and compact the leather in to make it dense. So there's something called a rolling jack and even the glazing jack, which Cordovan gets glazed and rolled. So again, exceptions to the rules. But when you pound in and press down on the leather, it sort of makes that grain layer from the surface start to separate out from the fibers below. Somehow when you like press it down, I don't know why this happens, but they release. So they get a junky break when you press it too hard. So honestly, like the less you do, the better in the tanning process, the better for like everything, look and appearance. But the biggest reason that you don't see a lot of veg in boots and shoes, maybe you see it in some of these like more boutique things, but most boot and shoe making processes require steam heat to heat the leather around the last. And veg tan leathers do not play well with heat. They'll make the leather crack if you heat them up too hot. So a veg cannot be used in a manufacturer that uses any amount of steam, which sort of eliminates a lot of larger manufacturers. That's a big reason you don't see a lot of veg. So hopefully that answers your question. The durability, when I read your sentence here, the suppleness of Chrome XL seems to come at the expense of durability. I find Chrome XL, I'm wearing Chrome XL right now. I find it to be really durable. The part that I find that is that maybe you're referencing is the how it scuffs and scratches. The finish system on Chrome Excel is not particularly tough, so it will dent and scuff and scratch. Actually, veg tan leathers, generally speaking, tend to dent more than chrome tan leathers. There's a good amount of veg in the Chrome Excel. But the finish, like that top coat on the Chrome Excel, I noticed scuffs a lot. Tends to blend in pretty nicely just with normal wear. But that weakness that you might be perceiving, I would say, is just in the finish. So when I talk about durability, I'm thinking like, will this boot last me if I could wear it every day for 20 years? And haven't done that. But I haven't had a pair of Chrome Excel, haven't had the leather rip. Again, exceptions to the rule is if you have a bad manufacturer that thins down the leather too far and doesn't make it a nice way, you can make leather that Chrome Excel that rips. Chrome Excel is super, super strong though. I think you'd be surprised if I took a piece of leather like this and cut a little slit in it, you would have a really hard time ripping it. It's called a slit tear test. Crown Northampton makes some Dublin Sneakers, if I'm not mistaken. I'm not familiar with them. Maybe I'll look that up right here. Let's look it up. Dublin Sneakers. And Hugh says, oh, I see what you're talking about here with the Dublin Sneakers. I think I found them. Yeah, let's flip it over, man. All right. Sure. Those look pretty neat. That looks like shell, actually, on the left. Actually, it looks like shell on the right, too. Oh, it is shell. So the other issue with what concerns me about these is I'd be really curious to see how they stayed attached to the soles, because a lot of the times the construction methods for these sneakers are what's it called? Not galvanized. They have to it looks like they might have stitched it to it. But a lot of the times they have to use glue to attach these soles, this style sole, and the shell, they just don't make adhesives that will hold it onto a sole like this. I actually also like some of these soles seem awkward looking. Like that one looks neat. It's a little weird. It's a little weird. I like that. It's all right. Anyways, it's really hard to stick anything to shell. It's like notoriously hard to work with because nothing sticks to shell or the Chrome Excel. It's like trying to glue two pieces of wax together. There's just like so much wax in it. But this is cool. Thanks for the share. I'm surprised. I feel like I've seen these, but I didn't know the name. It's pretty cool. Hugh says, do you have any experience with Kangaroo Leather? I do. I've got a pair of R.M. William boots, and they're pretty great. Apparently, Kangaroo Leather is one of the toughest, making it ideal for footwear. So, if you look here at this chart again, this is sort of, again, why I get concerned and why I did this podcast. It's pretty strong, but you can make it weak. I would almost guarantee that I could make Chrome Excel stronger than in a steer hide than any of the Kangaroo stuff I've seen. So you're just talking about this one little section. So I need more information. I need to know, was it chrome tan or veg tan? I need to know, all these other things to be able to tell you that Kangaroo is strong or tough. The Kangaroo that I've worked with was a veg. It was actually, you might be able to find it on. We used to do some business with this awesome flashlight guy, and I think he sells our leather sheaths in Kangaroo Leather. So I'll be able to show you exactly what we used. This is Kangaroo that we made sheaths for. It's nice. You can really see the grain difference. but it didn't strike me as particularly tough. No more tough than the Cordovan that we sold this guy. But if you want a really wild flashlight, man, I have all these. I really like the Beagle. I have this copper one. Some of these are a little much, but it's pretty cool. Kangaroos I think it's neat. I don't necessarily think that just talking about the animal type is as relevant as many other things. But that's a good question. I don't want to sound rude about it, but I think it's like not enough information. And I'm not super familiar with R.M. William. Sorry. I don't know. Okay, AKS Minster says, what do you think of Conceria Pierre leathers? I don't know them. Butero, I'm not familiar with either. I've seen pictures. I know there's a lot of sneakers of that. I think my perception is that it's nice, but I don't know enough. Okay, Bobo839 is a great question. What constitutes a good break and a bad break in leather shoes? Well, the answer is do you like the way it looks? Because sometimes it might have something that I would consider a bad break, but you're cool with it. I don't have anything that has a poor break right now, but the idea, let me flip the camera here. So the idea would be if you fold the leather in on itself right here, is this starting to pebble and delaminate in a pleasant or unpleasant way to you? And however you answer that question is a good break or a bad break. Most people would say a tighter break is more pleasant, and a tighter break tends to have less pebbling and less of a coarse pattern. Like if you imagine like a pebbled grain leather, that's like a little bit more coarse looking. I like the way that it looks when it's all tumbled. But if you start to see like just one little spot where your toe's flexing and it's very pipey, it's not the best look. So there's actually like a break coarseness gauge that they systematized that you like reference and look at it. Is like how coarse are the pipiness, how coarse is the pipiness, and it can get pretty junky. The finest break that you'll find would be the shell. It like doesn't really have any delamination or any of that pebbling. Most people find that most calf skin tends these days as probably the second best break. Again, like that only if you're looking at this chart, that's only like one part of the story. So to answer your question is it depends on like, do you like the way it looks? But it's a tough one for me to answer. Hugh says, I think Rose Anvil did a video of him tearing apart one of these shell Cordovan sneakers apart. Breaks my heart. He's made a living on cutting boots and shoes in half, which is incredible. Jim says, what's the next evolution in Cordovan color from Horween? I have one next to me that you can see in the private stock video that I haven't filmed yet. Sorry, Jim. Jim says, what's the next evolution in Cordovan color from Horween? We have the Epic Dye, Marbles, but are there new colors in Skip's Brain? Yep, I have one sitting next to me right now. So maybe this would be good transition. I have about 40 items that I need. I just took all the photos, so I needed to make product pages and do a little video before I release it tomorrow. So my question to you is, would you rather have a live stream like this for me presenting the private stock stuff, or would you rather have a higher quality, well presented, not live 4K video of, just a better resolution of the private stock stuff? Because I can do it live and it'd probably be a little faster for me, but I think I miss seeing some of the detail in the 4K videos as opposed to the live streams. But I would set up another camera in addition to this and just sort of like hover it over the table and light it up. So I'd be curious to see if you want to do that. But I'm planning to do a private stock thing tomorrow. There are some private stock. These one shots are up right now. I think there's a couple, 1, 2, 3, 5 colors left. I think the Cordovan one sold out. There's like leathers that we don't use very often. We made a couple one shots out of. I didn't see a welt on that shoe. It doesn't look like a welt. Maybe. I don't know. I don't know how they attach these, but it'd be interesting to see. That would be my main concern with these shoes is how do they attach the bottoms? How do they attach the outsoles? Because that's going to come apart. And it's expensive, so I would be pretty bummed out if mine fell apart. Andrew says, I've been doing some reading on leather jackets lately and was wondering if you had any comments on what makes a good leather jacket versus boot leather. Oh, good jacket leather versus boot leather. Front quarter horsehide, for example. Well, again, like that's, if you look at the chart, the reason that you see more horsehides in the jacket, like this one I'm wearing, is the horsehides are inherently thinner on the horse fronts. They tend to be 3 ounces thick. And for me, that's a pretty good thickness on a jacket. It's not, like this is not well fitting me right now. It's like it was originally made snug and now I'm probably just bigger. But you want to be able to move, right? And the thicker the leather, the less flexibility you tend to have. I like it thinner. I know people also some people like really heavy and mass jackets. I think that's why you find a lot of Chrome Excel horse jackets from places like Arrow. The Chrome Excel is really dense and heavy. So people have explained to me that they like that feeling of like having something really heavy on them. I get concerned with the Chrome Excel for that reason. I find it to be like a little too heavy to wear, or to want to wear. The Chrome Excel also has color crocking issues. It's not a leather that, basically if you put anything light color next to it, the color from the Chrome Excel will come off pretty easily. So that would be a concern. And it also, we talked about Chrome Excel denting, scuffing, and scratching. It's gonna dent and scuff and scratch, especially on a jacket. I think it looks awesome in the same way it looks awesome on a boot. It's probably more awesome on a jacket. That's what I would look for. On this particular leather, we actually finished this one like to what I thought would be exactly perfect as far as the finish system on a jacket, is I put a UV and a silky top coat on the finish of this horsehide Latigo. It's the same leather that we use on our wallet interiors. It's thin, it's light in mass. I think this color is like a little aggressive. I don't know if I can pull this off, but I put a UV protective top coat on it. So if you wear it out in the sun won't change the color of the leather. That'd be something I'd be interested to know. But I know one of my favorite jackets I've ever seen was shot, Horween. I don't know how to find this one, but Nick did a special leather for shot. It's like a suede looking thing. What did he call it? Anyways, there's this like black suede. What did they call that? There's a really cool shot. They did a 316. It's a little expensive. But I thought this was just about the coolest jacket I've ever seen. And it's a suede. So I don't know if you can even get this anymore. It's like a rough out. I thought that was awesome. There is one jacket of note that I'll point out is a Thursday boot jacket. I don't know how it's possible for them to make a jacket at this price. So if you want to just try a leather jacket, I've suggested them on these streams a few times now, just because like I don't understand how they could possibly make it for that price. Like the leather itself is more expensive than that much than $350. So I don't know how they're doing it. Maybe they're just doing it at a loss. But I think only the natural is Horween Chrome Excel. I think the other leathers are something else. So that might be worth checking out, just because like that seems like a crazy deal. I don't know how they do that. Hey Andrew, I'm glad that you're here. Glad you caught it. Live. I missed the regular live. Check out Alan Edmonds, Park Avenue Burgundy Sneakers. That's Grail Shoe. Oh, Park Avenue Burgundy. I thought Alan Edmonds, Park Ave. I thought they only did black. Oh, I guess they do a bunch of stuff. Yeah, the Park Avenues are just like a dress shoe, like cap toe. Pretty nice. Here's the burgundy. Dark chili, nope. Coffee, nope. Maybe they have a different... I think they have like a Cordovan section. You know what? We'll probably end on this. Insanely affordable. I assume you're talking about Thursday. It's a pretty good deal. Like, I don't understand how they can do that. What are we looking for? Park Avenue, right? Capto? Is the burgundy? They don't really tell you what colors they are. Bordeaux? Maybe this is the one you're talking about. What's your guys' favorite stuff from Alan Edmonds? Let's see what new boots are. This kind of reminds me of Timberland and Danner. It's weird to see Alan Edmonds doing this. This reminds me of, yeah. Gotta call it Shell Cordovan sneaker. Oh, yeah, I saw that. I seen that they did a weird looking shell sneaker in the style of like a dress shoe. Maybe they stopped doing it. Did you mean to search for Shell Cordovan? Yeah. Okay. This Dalton was the first shell thing I tried to buy, and I just could not get the fit right. A long time ago, I tried to wear these. It was just like too narrow for me, even with all their different widths and stuff. I just couldn't. It didn't feel right. It was too expensive for me to like try to force it. Here we go, Cordovan collection. Maybe they got rid of the sneaker. I know what you're talking about. I kind of like the Higgins Mill too, by the way. Oh, there they are. Yeah, so yeah. I think it's a strange... It looks exactly like what they did. It's like they took the Park Avenue pattern and just put a different sole on it. I worry about those falling apart, but you know, it could just be an unfounded concern. So people like the shell strands. Let's go back to the... You like these? Yeah, you know, I have those. The Dublin shoes I have are this pattern, and I find them to be really comfortable, actually. And Higgins Mill is neat. Yeah. Huh. Is that cigar? That might be cigar. They just call it brown. Huh. I didn't know they had that color. Here's the color 8. Black. Chili. This looks like a... So I think they buy color number 2 shell to make what they call chili, but that looks dark. That looks like color 4. Maybe they do color 4. It's not. I actually like this one the most, I think. And that brown's interesting. And then what was the other one? Shell sneakers. No, it's an abomination. I thought they looked odd. They look odd in these Allen Edmond one. The whatever we were looking at earlier did not look that odd to me. These look odd. I like Higgins Mill a lot. Oh, I didn't know they did Cordovan. I really like plain toe. Just such a boring vanilla guy, but I think that looks awesome. Just give me nothing. Just keep it straight up. Interesting. All right, guys. I know you missed the live thing. I'm running out of time here. So I'm going to wrap this up. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to film the private stock video and then release it tonight and try to take it home so I can see my kid and then edit it in the evening and release it. And tomorrow we're probably going to launch this thing at like 5 Central Time. And there's going to be a brand new, it's actually hand finished piece of shell from Skip. We made 2 wallets out of it. It's a little something different looking that I have never seen before. I think it's a one of one shell that Skip made. And then there's, we lost a great teammate and a great person. Amir is no longer on our team. He's going off to work on his own, trying to work some different mediums. And he gave me a send-off private stock wallet. So we've got a special, like a last wallet that Amir made that is unbelievable looking. Got a couple special, couple belts. We don't do a lot of belts in the private stock. One of them is a belt we have 4 of that have not been cut to size. So we'll be able to cut those to size for you. The other is like a longer belt. That's a 2-layer belt on a, it's really nice looking, but it's like a weird size. It's belts are tough. And then we've got a NATO watch strap and then like a couple key cases and maybe 35 wallets for the private stock tomorrow. I'm going to try to do that 5 o'clock tomorrow. And if you're on the news, if you're on YouTube, you'll see the announcement here first, and you'll be able to see them here first. It's where I post everything first. It's on YouTube, and then I'll do a newsletter announcement an hour before the event goes live. So at 4 p.m. Central, you should receive a newsletter saying like, "Hey, heads up, private stock's going live in an hour." How these things tend to go pretty fast, which is it's exciting and like we're very honored to have your support. And then I get people that are really bummed out about how quickly things sell. So it's a double-edged sword. So I try to make it as fair as possible by giving these updates, like let you see it ahead of time and then give you an hour notification with a preview video. And then, you know, whoever wants it fastest gets it. Unfortunately, that's the only fair way I've come up with to do it. And I know with the special things like one-off private stocks, there's going to be some people that are bummed out, but it's just the only way I could figure out to make it work. My brother wants me to do auctions. He encouraged me to try that thought. I just don't like the idea of like, I want the price to be the price. Like, I don't want somebody that's got a ton of money to win out against somebody else that doesn't have a ton of money. Like at the end of the day, for me, it's more about just like letting people experience the leather and like we need to make money to continue to do it, but it's not like I don't want to have like a infinite money guy get all the wallets thing. So I don't have avoided the auction for that reason. And then like experience other new leathers. Like I said, we've got the one shots that are up right now. So if you want to try out like a really cool orange Essex, there's the new cigar Dublin, the football leather, and then the other 2, cobalt blue Dublin and this pearl DeVille, which is like the most interesting gray leather I've ever seen. It's really hard to get grays. There's only a couple left of each. I think maybe like 1 or 2. And then don't forget to check out this this podcast, I've been getting some nice feedback about it, and it was just like a real pleasure to chat with Ben from Stitchdown for such a long time. And I think the topic is important. I get topically in depth, or like slightly in depth about a lot of these things when trying to make it palatable. But there's a lot of information to know in order to make a good decision. So that's why when people asking questions in the chat here today about, what's the best leather for a jacket, is horse the best? It's like, let's get a little bit more information. And it's a frustrating answer because I know you just want the answer. You'd be able to buy your thing. The problem is a lot of this stuff is each piece of leather is a little different. Each manufacturer is a little different. So my opinion is find something that you like the look of and then research like what their current customers think about their stuff. So for example, we have an Ashland Leather Patina Masters group on our Facebook channel. It's a private group, but I let everybody in. Come see what our customers are saying. If you're interested, you like the way Grant Stone looks, I'm also a member of their Facebook group. So they have a community of people that post their experience with their shoes. Just like see what people think about stuff going on. I know that Arrow has a good community on some of the forums. I think the Federa Lounge was one where you can find out a lot about Arrow jackets. I know that they've like interviewed me for that forum before. So there's these little communities of people that know a lot about that specific brand and what they're doing. So I would sort of like click into that. But I think it starts off first with just like going through Google Images and being like, I like the way that this jacket looks, and start with the look and then sort of backtrack it from there, getting into the Self-Edge, store community, see if there's people talking about the different drops from Self-Edge, and Shot. I'm sure Shot has like a little group where you can chat them up, people that are really into Shot, and they'll direct you in the right spot. In fact, if the question is about footwear, really suggests the Stitchdown Discord, which somebody like myself is in there, but you also have like the owner for Grant Stone hanging out, chatting with you. So it's like you find these little communities that will be able to provide you with like good information. And then at the end of the day too, is like somebody like me, and I think all these other brands, if you get a product and it's not exactly right, like we're going to work with you to make it right, or just give you your money back. That's what I would do. So sometimes you got to like jump in the deep end and try it out too. So hopefully that helped. Check out the podcast, links in the description. Jim, I appreciate the feedback on doing a live video. I don't think I'm gonna be able to make it work today. Run out of time. But I like doing the live stuff, and I should do it more. I'd like to do like what would be more achievable for me, because like it's hard for me to show you stuff sitting down at the desk here. I'd like to do it with like an iPhone and like do a live video on the phone showing you how things look over on the table. It can save me a little bit of time and effort. It's just running out of time to make your stuff. And to me, like answering emails, phone calls, text messages, connecting with the customers is the most important thing. And then if we can't make product fast enough, it's a problem. So like my priorities end up there, and then it sucks that like live streaming gets backburnered, but that's just inevitable fact. So I still got we're not perfect. I'm not perfect, but I'm trying. The Diesel boots and Higgins Mills boots look the same, by the way. They're both similar styles. They're both plain toe boots. Here, let's do that and I'll end it, because I love the Grant Stone Diesel boot. I have two pairs now. I have these in Dune, and then I got the black ones with a leather sole, which they don't make. But if you take a look, so it's similar designs. Look at the heel and the side stitching thing. So the Grant Stone's cleaner, but it has a heel part where the Higgins Mill does nothing, but it has a stitch, and it's sort of like a Western sort of vibe on that stitch. It's just like a purely aesthetic stitch, I think. Price is a little different. Oh, this is Chrome Excel. Higgins Mill 445 and Grant Stone 360. This one's made in China, the Grant Stone, and I believe these are made in Wisconsin. Yes, Port Washington, Wisconsin. It's more expensive from Allen Edmonds. I would, again, like, start with what you like the look of. That looks a little strange to me, that leather. So maybe there's a different, maybe for different leather that you like. It's like a little contrived to me. And the red looks weird. Or the brick or whatever they call it. But I would start with the look and then just like chat people up. Like, hey, how do these fit? Get sized right. That's the second most important thing. But I can tell you, I really like my Grant Stones. And right now I'm wearing the Oak Street boot. I'm wearing the trench boots from Oak Street right now, and I've been really enjoying these too. The ones I'm wearing are not plain toe, but they do have a plain toe boot. So here's the plain toe trench boot. These are made in New York State. 442, Grant Stone, 360, Allen Edmonds, 445. So it's towards the high end, or it is the high end. Made in USA. Mine, so this has a leather sole. I like this pair a lot. Mine are exactly this, except mine have a cap toe, and I'm enjoying them. So there's a few different plain toe things. I also really like, I don't think they sell them anymore, but the Alden plain, oops. Let's see if we can find a plain toe Chrome XL. Alden also makes plain toe boot that I really like. The one I have is like a variant that Context Clothing sold. It's called a Roy boot. But man, look at this. Sheesh. Somebody really wore those. Let me just show you the Roy boot because I love them so much. Oh, it's me. There we go. So this is me talking about my Roy boot with like crazy hair. Anyways, I really like the Roy boot too. That's weird. I didn't expect to see that. This is just a plain toe boot with a crepe sole. I don't know if I'd do crepe sole again. It's all right. It's comfortable. It's like super squishy and comfortable, but kind of wears out and like picks up dirt. I kind of like the neoprene cork sole that Alden does. So if I were to do it again, I'd do like a plain toe boot, brown Chrome XL, neoprene cork sole. I actually kind of dig in these laces that I'm wearing from Oak Street right now that don't have the speed laces. I just tie it around the shaft. I'm actually kind of enjoying that more than I thought I would. So I would do that on these two. Maybe I'll get our buddies from Aldwine to do that. And I'm so bummed out to hear about Jim from Aldwine. I actually filmed an interview with Jim. Let me see if I'll pull that up. I filmed the interview that I never released with Jim. Let's see if I can find it here. Here it is. It's a Zoom file.
For me,
Here's
are you
poor
on
Jim.
are you on a are you
So
on
I did this interview with Jim
computer right now,
that
or
we never
stuff?
finished.
And
But he helped me size Jim.
95% or better accurate on the Brannick, just because I've been doing it for so long. But
So
I would.
Jim was a great guy, and I wanted to help Aldwine out. At the end of the day, like I feel like I'm bummed out about Jim. At the end of the day, I feel like if I can help a company like Aldwine sell Alden and talk about leather more, it's like part of our mission to get the leather out there to more people to experience it. So I wanted to help Aldwine out by putting them on our channel, and this is a video that we never actually released because Jim got sick. but he sent me a Brannick device, and we were filming. What did we do? We filmed me getting sized by Jim over the internet, and we're just going to show people like how to get properly sized for Alden. And then he actually sent me a few pairs based off the measurements that he took, and we were just never able to finish it. So that's a bummer. But Aldwine, maybe I'll have him make my dream boot, which would be kind of like a Roy boot mod. Really like those Roy boots. Just like a great look on the plain toe. I think it's the Berry Last. They're awesome. Okay, I missed your comments, but I'm gonna head out here. Jim says, "Save me a Prohibition wallet." You'll have to, if you want this flap wallet. We haven't named it yet, Jim, but if you want something like that, I can work with you on that. Recommendation for leather addiction treatment: bourbon. Just drink a lot. Sean says, "Hey Phil, are these live recorded anywhere to watch later? There's a good information contained in these lives and a bit of shame." Yeah, I think you can, if you, let me check on that, but I think you can actually access all of my stuff. Let's see if I can bring it over here. So here's what our YouTube page looks like, right? So this is like what we're doing right now, this live thing. But I think if you go to videos here and then see how it says uploads underneath, like right here, I'll zoom in. Close this. So if you go to YouTube and find our page and then click over to videos, there's this little caret, and if you hit past live streams, you'll be able to see some of the live streams that I've done. And they're all up there. I haven't deleted anything. So yeah, you're welcome to check them out there. And then the last question we'll get to, and I'm sorry, I gotta go. BC08 says, "What's more comfortable, Alden Indy or Grantstone?" For me, the Indy boots I think are more comfortable now. Out of the box, for sure, Grantstone was more comfortable. I think for you, what's going to be more comfortable, which it would be whatever last is better for you. The Indy boots are on a True Balance last, which is pretty roomy. It's nice. The Grandstone last is actually pretty similar. So I'd say if you get fit properly, both of them should be equally comfortable. I think the sole choice is going to have a big factor on how comfortable they are. I find the leather soles to be really comfortable. I find Chrome Excel as an upper to be really comfortable. So a little bit's going to depend on like what you choose for all the other options too. So thanks guys. Yeah, if you want to watch old live streams, you hit videos, then go to past live streams. You check them out there. Highly encourage you, and I loved doing this interview. Check out this the Stitchdown Shoecast. I think you would enjoy that podcast. It's also available on Spotify and all the podcast things. Let me know what you think. I'd appreciate your feedback. It was fun for me to do. So, and actually, he wants to do another one, but I don't know what to talk about. So if you guys have suggestions, I'm happy to accept them. Anyways, flip it back over here. Thank you guys so much. Thanks for checking me out. My cool guy jacket. You got Miranda's incredible, awesome trench coat back there. We'll be back in tomorrow or later tonight with private stock preview. So thanks for hanging out, and don't forget to check out that podcast.